For decades, Adobe has been the absolute king of design. I mean, we're talking about a creative monopoly so powerful that even trillion-dollar giants like Microsoft and Apple tried to compete and failed. So this is the story of how a 19-year-old student managed to build Adobe's worst nightmare. And it all started with a really simple, everyday frustration.
Okay, so let's set the stage, because it's a real David and Goliath story. On one side, you've got Adobe, a $150 billion behemoth, the gold standard, the company every single pro in the industry relies on. And on the other side, Melanie Perkins, not some seasoned tech CEO, but a 19-year-old college student. And get this, she wasn't even studying engineering. Her background was in communication and psychology. No technical experience whatsoever. It really doesn't get more underdog than that.
So the big question is, how on earth did this happen? How does someone with no coding skills, no venture capital, no massive resources, how do they manage to build a company that would seriously threaten the biggest name in the game? Well, the answer, and this is how so many great companies get their start, wasn't born from some grand vision to build a tech empire. Nope. It started with a simple, relatable frustration. So while she was at university, Melanie had this little side hustle, teaching other students how to use professional design programs like Photoshop and InDesign. But she kept noticing this weird pattern. Her students, they were smart, they were eager to learn, but they kept dropping out. And after talking with them, she had this total light bulb moment. She realized, wait a minute, the problem isn't my teaching. It's the software. It's just way too hard to use.
And she really boiled it down to 4 core problems. First, the software was just insanely complex. We're talking a learning curve like a vertical cliff. Second, there was no built-in library of assets, so you had to find or make everything from scratch. Third, you needed a really powerful, really expensive PC just to get the programs to run smoothly. And finally, the price. The subscriptions were so expensive that only full-time professionals could justify it. Basically, design was completely locked away from the rest of us.
Now here's the really smart part. Instead of trying to take on all of design at once, boil the ocean, Melanie and her co-founder Cliff Obrecht started small. They picked a tiny niche they understood, school yearbooks. In 2007, they launched Fusion Books, a super simple, web-based tool for making, you guessed it, yearbooks. And it was a huge hit. Within just a few years, they were the biggest yearbook publisher in all of Australia. This was more than just a successful business. It was the ultimate proof that their idea, making design simple and accessible, had a massive audience. So with that confidence, the vision got a whole lot bigger. And in 2012, Canva was born.
Okay, this next part is maybe the most important piece of the whole story. To fix the problem she saw, Melanie knew she couldn't just build another piece of software. She had to completely change how we even get the software. And this led to a single strategic decision that was an absolute masterstroke.
She went with what's called a browser-first approach. Now, this was a huge shift. Think about it. Back then, everything was a clunky program you had to download and install. But Canva was different. It was built to live completely inside your web browser. All the hard work, all the heavy lifting, didn't happen on your computer. It happened on Canvas servers, way out in the cloud. This one choice, it changed the entire game.
And making that one decision unlocked 4, honestly, almost unfair advantages. For starters, you didn't need a powerful computer anymore. Any cheap laptop with an internet connection would work. Second, it was impossible to pirate, which was a massive headache for Adobe. Third, they could push updates and new features to everyone instantly. No more waiting for version 2.0. And finally, because it was already built for the web, creating a mobile version was so much easier.
And let me tell you, that mobile advantage was enormous. Canva got its app out all the way back in 2016. It took Adobe years to release a comparable full-featured version for tablets. That gave Canva a giant head start on the platform where, today, more than half of its users are.
Now, you might be thinking, wow, this was pure genius. And it absolutely was. But you also have to talk about the timing. It was perfect. Canva basically rode this perfect wave created by 3 huge tech trends happening all at once. First, HTML5 became the new standard, which finally made web browsers powerful enough to handle complex graphics. Second,
social media exploded, creating this bottomless need for businesses to create simple designs fast. And third, cloud computing from companies like Amazon Web Services went mainstream, which let Canva scale to millions of users around the world literally overnight. So, Canva has the right idea at the perfect time. Everything's going great, but what happens when the giant you've been poking finally wakes up and decides to fight? Because that's exactly what happened next.
And oh boy, did they fight back. Adobe launched its own web-based tool, which is now called Adobe Express. On paper, this should have been game over for Canva. I mean, you've got the full weight of the Adobe brand, their cash, their army of engineers, all aimed directly at this little startup. But that's not what happened.
So why didn't Adobe Express crush Canva? Well, it all boils down to a fundamental difference in philosophy. Canva was built like an open community, while Adobe operated like a closed corporation. Take templates. Adobe used its own in-house designers, but Canva? They created a marketplace where anyone could upload a template and get paid for it, leading to a massive, diverse library. And look at their business model. Adobe made you pay up front to use the good stuff. Canva did something brilliant. They let you do all the work for free and only asked for $1 or $2 right at the end when you were happy and wanted to download your creation. This open, community-driven approach was just something Adobe's top-down structure couldn't compete with.
And the results of all those smart strategies? Well, the proof is in the numbers. Today, more than 180 million people use Canva every single month. Let that sink in. That's not just a user base. That's a massive global community, all built on that original idea of making design simple and accessible for everyone.
But the story isn't over. Not by a long shot. There's a new technological shift that's rewriting all the rules of the game one more time. And that next frontier is, you guessed it, artificial intelligence.
So, just to quickly recap the old battlefield, it was pretty simple. Canva's territory was ease of use. It was simple, but maybe not as powerful. Adobe's turf was raw power, incredibly capable, but super complex. They were basically serving two different worlds. But now, AI is completely scrambling that map. Thanks to AI tools, Canva is getting way more powerful, letting you do things that used to require a pro. And at the same time, Adobe is using its powerful AI, Firefly, to make super complex tasks incredibly simple. You can just type what you want and it appears. So what's happening is that both companies are now invading each other's territory. And that leaves us with one final and really fascinating question. With AI changing all the rules, who's actually better positioned to win the future? Is it Canva, with its gigantic user base and its culture of moving fast and integrating everything? Or is it Adobe, with its decades of professional data and its own incredibly powerful in-house AI? The next chapter in this incredible rivalry is being written as we speak. And honestly, it's anyone's guess who's going to come out on top.